Good people, good people. Friday night. So y'all know what time it is. Y'all know who's in the building. Y'all know what's going on. It's your boy, Cool McCain. And I'm joined as always by my co-host over here.
That be your boy, Stephen Box.
Hell, we digging into sports. We have a lot of things within the world of sports, and we're gonna talk about a couple of them with you. But if you're new to this and not true to this, or if you're true to this, we always got to start by reminding you who we are. And the simplest way for us to do this is a quick reminder. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we get there, the one other thing I just want to say is appreciate everybody tuning in, everybody that's about to tune in. It's going to be a fun ride. Let's go.
The play callers.
All right, guys. Had to have a quick cough there, but we good. All right, so we're going to start off in the world of the WNBA. So we have had the roster for the um, WNBA All Stars has been chosen. And they'll be playing against the U.S. Women's National Team roster. So basically, the way this works, because a lot of people may not be aware, if you're on the women's national team, you're ineligible to be on Team WNBA. Because how can you play on two teams? Just doesn't make any sense, right? So essentially, we know the USA Women's National Team, but we're gonna go over them again just in case anybody forgot. You're welcome. So, USA Women's National Team is Nafisa Collier, Kalia Cooper. Well, let me give you the teams because I forget everybody's not well into the WNBA. So Nafisa Collier from the Minnesota Lynx, Kalia Copper, now with the Phoenix Mercury. She was with the Chicago Sky. So if you watched before this year, maybe where you know her from. Chelsea Gray from the Las Vegas Aces. You'll hear that name as well as the Phoenix Mercury a lot. Brittany Griner from aforementioned Phoenix Mercury. Sabrina Ionescu from the New York Liberty. Jewel from the Seattle Storm. The Gold Mamba is a beast, in case you don't know. Kelsey Plum, also from the aforementioned Las Vegas Aces. Brianna Stewart, also from the New York Liberty, who have multiple players as well. Diana Taurasi, also from the aforementioned Phoenix Mercury. Alyssa Thomas from the Connecticut Sun. Aja Wilson from the Las Vegas Aces, aforementioned as well. And the last Las Vegas Aces player and the last player on the team, Jackie Young. So yeah, you have a heavy dose of Phoenix Mercury, Las Vegas Aces, and New York Liberty on this team. But those are the better teams in the league, right? So not a surprise they have a majority of the players. So yeah, man, I know we've kind of had some discussions about people left off the national team, but how do you feel about this women's national team just as a whole? Anybody you think should? Well, we're not going to go down that route. Do you feel this is a team that can go out and compete and win a championship overseas in the Olympics? And also, do you feel like this is a team that this time can beat the Team WNBA, which last time didn't happen? They lost to Team WNBA.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely an interesting question, right? Because the one thing about it is you do have a couple of players on the women's national team that are a little bit older. I know that was kind of some people's complaint was like, hey, some of the young players not really getting a chance to go over there and do that opportunity. You're giving players that they're not necessarily bad at this point, right? They're still playing at a good level, but they are a little bit older. They maybe have some weaknesses in their game that they didn't previously have as they've gotten a little older. Happens to all of us, right? But that does kind of make some question marks about the team's ability to go out and win. Because as we've said a number of times, with the women's teams in particular, there's not as much of a talent gap between the other countries, right? And even I think the men's really you're getting to a point now where we have more European players in the league. That's starting to kind of balance out on the men's side as well. But particularly the women's side has always been very competitive when it comes to the Olympics. And so it is going to be interesting to see what this team does because the last couple times, the women have won, but it's been, there's been some tight silent for them to win, but they're gonna have to go out there and play well. They're not gonna be able to go out there and phone any games in. That's for sure.
Definitely. So now we're going to talk about Team WNBA, which is the All Stars. And I want to preface this by saying, in order to be on Team WNBA, you just need to not be playing for another country. I mean, not be playing for the United States. So even if you play for another country, you can make it. I'm not saying that there's anybody that's the case for, but just so we're clear, as long as you don't play for Team USA, the U.S. women's national team, you can be on the All-Star team. So it doesn't discount somebody that may be from a different country.
Okay.
All right. So let's give you the Team WNBA, which you probably heard a lot about already, but just to give you the information. DeWanna Bonner from the Connecticut Sun is on Team WNBA. Aaliyah Boston, second-year player from the Indiana Fever. Caitlin Clark, the rookie from the Indiana Fever. If she wasn't on here, I think there would have been a revolt. Alicia Gray from the Atlanta Dream is on here. She's been league. She's a veteran. We'll just say that. Her and DeWanna Bonner are veterans. We'll say that. Dearica Hamby from the LA Sparks. She's also a veteran. She's on the team. Brianna Jones from the Connecticut Sun. Obviously, we got a couple of Connecticut Sun players even on here. She's a veteran as well. Counting veteran as anybody with 5 or more years of experience. Jonquel Jones from the New York Liberty, also a veteran. Kayla McBride from the Minnesota Lynx, another veteran. Kelsey Mitchell from the Indiana Fever, another veteran. Arike Agumawale from the Dallas Wings, also another veteran. Nneka Agumake from the Seattle Storm, also a veteran. And Angel Reese from the Chicago Sky, who is a rookie. So we got 2 rookies who seem to be kind of making some headlines and some waves and such on the team, as well as a lot of veteran ladies that some argue the ones that are able to play for the U.S. women's national team should have been on that team. Arike Agumawale elected to remove herself from contention, so that's why she may or may not still have made the team, but she elected to remove herself. But definitely deserves to be on Team WNBA. So I'm gonna give you guys a quick thing here. So we've got 1, 2, 3 players on Team WNBA that have 10 or more years of experience. Then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 more that have 7 years or more experience. So we've got a lot of people on this team also that are, shall we say, kind of OGs in the game. So this is the team that's Team WNBA. The last time Team WNBA played the U.S. women's national team, right? The last time they played, Team WNBA beat them. So my question for my co-host, do you think it's going to happen again?
I don't. I mean, it could definitely be a competitive game, right? But I do look at, I know a lot of people are going to be very excited about the 2 rookies. There's going to be a lot of interest about how they're going to play together because they've been kind of billed as being these rivals. So I think there's a lot of interest there. A lot of people are going to watch that. I do think that both these ladies have been playing well. Angel Reese, I don't know if her streak got snapped or not. I think she's up to 11. Yeah, I think she's up to 11 now. So they're both obviously playing well, kind of getting adjusted to the game. But I think that in a game like this, where you're going against a lot of experience, they're going to be able to kind of take advantage of you a little bit, right? And so I think that the national team, that experience advantage that they have overall, I think is going to kind of come into play here a little bit. But I do expect for it to be a pretty competitive game, though.
Well, I'll tell you, besides Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Aaliyah Boston, everybody on Team WNBA has at least 5 years of experience. When you look at the women's national team, just experience, because we talk a lot about experience, and I'm not talking about just you, but like in general, that's what people say, like, oh, experience. Um, there is no one on Team USA, obviously, that's a rookie. The only player that has less than 5 years experience, which is what I consider around the vet time, is Sabrina Ionescu, and she has 4 years, right? They have three players with 10 or more years of experience. And then obviously everybody else falls within that 6 to 9 year experience. So this is a very experienced team. I'm not saying that they're not, but Team WNBA is a very experienced team as well. What I think will be interesting is how long certain people play in matchups. Because if we're being 100% in a all-star game setting, there's nobody on this team that can guard the gold mama. Jewel Lloyd is going to go off because that's what Jewel Lloyd does, right? Jewel Lloyd is going to be Jewel Lloyd. There's nobody that's going to stop her. Now, she is on the Olympic team, and but she's that scorer on the Olympic team. I'm not saying other. Kalia Copper is also just a pure scorer. Kelsey Plum as well. So we've got some ladies on here that are very good. Asia Wilson, right? But then you start to look at Team WNBA. DeWanna Bonner is a hooper, OG, 14 years experience. You know what I'm saying? Jonquel Jones, balling. Brianna Jones is really having a great year. Alicia Gray, when she was with the Dallas team, the Wings, as well as now with the Dream, she's nice with it. So there are some ladies on here. Now, like Arike, she's a baller too. She's a bucket too. She's the second leading scorer in the whole league behind Asia Wilson, right? And the Nneka Ogwumike, Nneka been balling for a minute too. So to me, it's a tight matchup. I actually think Team WNBA might get the win because I feel like it's gonna make them feel good. It's gonna be a statement for those who felt like they should be on the team and didn't make it, and then also it's a wake-up call for Team U.S. Women's National Team, because I think they kind of go into this game like, yeah, it's their first time playing together. They haven't had any practice. They're just going in playing July 20th, so they're playing like 15 days. So it makes like 2 weeks. So for me, I think looking at it, I do believe that Team WNBA has the advantage. But all it will take was a couple of the ladies to get hot on the women's national team, and they could flip back the other way. But I'm going to go with Team WNBA to pick up the win. But I think it will be, as my co-host did also state, a close game. I don't see a blowout either way. But I think they're going to find a way to pick up that win because it's important to them. So AP's in the building. What up, AP? AP asked a random question. We're here for random questions. Caitlin Clark is number 1 on the Rookie of the Year. Do you think the clear cut is Angel Reese? I don't think there is a clear cut for that as of yet. Statistical wise, I can see you putting Caitlin Clark there. And this is not a knock on her, but we don't talk enough about a turnover. We talk about her wonderful eye and her assists and different things, but we don't talk about the turnovers. And her assist to turnover ratio is not good. Angel Reese, 11 straight double-doubles. Going into tonight for 12 straight to be the all-time leader among rookies for consecutive double-doubles, excuse me. But I don't think you can say one or the other is. I think to me, whoever finishes on a better team, and I know we always talk about like, oh, team doesn't matter for individual awards, but when it's really tight, you got to have some breaker. And I think the tiebreaker is going to be which team finishes better. And right now, the Chicago Sky are in the playoffs, and the Fever are not at the moment. So if I was looking right now, I'd probably give a slight edge to Angel Reese if it was the end of the season, just because of that. But I think they're different players. So we have to remember, Angel Reese is a post player. She's not going to score as many points as someone like Caitlin Clark because she's not going to get a lot of threes. She's not bringing the ball up, right? She's going to post and she's needing someone to give her the ball. It's just like a wide receiver in the NFL. You know what I'm saying? You need someone to give you the ball. You can't throw yourself the ball. Caitlin, on the other hand, is not going to have the assists, the blocks, because she doesn't play that part of the court. So Reese is going to always be the one that has a much better rebounding, much better blocks, right? Steals can go either way. Points should go to Caitlin Clark just because of the position she plays. And that's not a knock on either one of them, but that's just a straight looking at the sport of basketball and saying we know what this person does better and what that person does better based on their size, skill set, and where they play. But I think it's just going to come down to whoever's team finishes better in the standings. So if the Fever are 10th and the Sky are 7th, I think Angel Reese will win. If the Sky are 9th and the Fever are 8th, I think Caitlin Clark will win. I don't have a problem with either one of them winning. I'm not the Caitlin Clark sucks. I'm not the Angel Reese is garbage. They're both really good players. And Angel Reese doing a little finger thing did bring more attention to Caitlin Clark, but Caitlin Clark was a great player in college. So you can't so there's arguments for both of them. They're both doing well throughout the season. They both had ups and downs. I think Caitlin's more up and downish, but it balances out. And you're looking at a balance when you're talking about Rookie of the Year. So that's my thoughts. Thought you want to answer?
I mean, really, the only thing I'll say is I do think a lot of times with awards like this that voters do tend to lean more towards offense. So that could kind of play a part. We talked about that last year with the NFL, right? Where it's like you already know an MVP is going to be a quarterback. It doesn't matter what anybody else does. And
Right.
when it comes to basketball, there is kind of a tendency to always lean toward scorers versus other positions. Right or wrong, it's just the way the voting usually goes.
Yeah, I just say the only thing for me is the double doubles. They like the sexy numbers too.
Yeah.
So if Angel Reese can pull out a double double for the season, I think she's got a good chance. But hey, we'll have to see. After the Olympic break, they reset. They both get a chance to relax, get their bodies right, get ready for the rest of the season. So we'll see how it plays out. But that is a valid point.
Well, and I think the other thing to consider too, though, and I think the voters may look at this is Reese is actually playing with Cardoso, who's also playing well, right? And so there's kind of it's two people there. That's why the team might be playing better versus one person. So that could also be something that might factor into the mind of the voters.
If that factors in, I would say those are people that weren't watching from the beginning of the season. Because remember, Cardoso was out until June. So that whole first stretch of the season, everything was happening. That was all Angel Reese without Cardoso. Cardoso hasn't really. She's kind of, to me, just starting to really, about the last 5 or so games, starting to really look like who we expected her to. But again, to your point, there are finicky voters, and a lot of the voters are going to be people who may not have been paying as much attention to the WNBA in the past. So, it can go either way.
Look, and let's not lie. We all know that everyone has a recency bias.
Yeah.
We know that's
so true. Yeah, that's so true. So it could go either way. I mean, like I said, I don't have a problem with either one as long as we understand that those are the two. Right? That's the magic and bird right now. Like however you want to spin it, whatever you want to use, but that's the magic and bird.
Pretty much.
So other ladies are playing well, especially with Cameron Brink going down injured, who was actually starting to come on a little bit too. But
yeah, she could have been in that conversation had she not get hurt.
Probably wouldn't have wanted to be in the conversation.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we're going to transition over. We're going to talk a little free agency. So free agency, just in trades, just for everyone, does not include one LeBron James and his son. Okay. We're not going to talk about them today. We'll probably talk about them on another show, but not today. All right. So we'll talk about some of the main moves, because we've had some moves that you're kind of like, but it's like whatever, right? So like DeJounte Murray was a Hawk, now he's a Pelican. That to me is an interesting trade. Some of the pieces that Atlanta got back were like Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance Jr., and so on and so forth. But those are not the important pieces, we'll say. just to be fair, right? So that's the type of thing that we'll be talking about. And then, of course, teams that have re-signed. So like the Boston Celtics. They've been busy, Bucks. They've been busy. So we got two that we're going to talk about. You can get into the dollar amounts if you want. I just want to talk about like the players. We know it's big money, and everybody's talked about the amounts and throwing them online 20 times. But Jason Tatum's got the 5-year max, so he's getting paid. And then Derek Wright got a 4-year extension, as well as a couple of guys that, again, just not on the same level of what they're going to be doing for the team. So what are your thoughts on those moves for Boston?
I mean, you're Boston. You're coming off a championship. You haven't added anybody, but you didn't lose anybody. You're basically just bringing back the exact same team, right? So, I mean, it's not as if they really had some glaring weakness last year they needed to address.
Agreed.
Other than their consistency, but
yeah, I just say I like that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum both have the max deals because I think they're both max players. But I will let you know the alpha over there is Jaylen Brown. If you don't like that, I don't know what to tell you. A couple of signings for the Nets. I don't think anything, well, additions for the Nets, we'll say, but I don't think anything of major importance. But as far as additions, they got Bojan Bogdanovic in a trade with the Knicks. And they got Shake Milton as part of it. Shake Milton, you may remember from a couple of years ago when he played with the 76ers. He was a fairly decent guy, but didn't even know he was on the Nets last year. So, yeah, I'm on the Nets. So, I mean, on the Knicks, excuse me. I keep wanting to say Knicks, but Nets keeps coming out on the Knicks. So, it tells me all I need to know. And then they did send Mikal Bridges to the whole world. So, there's that, which will be good for their future and have some cap space. But, any thoughts on that, man?
I mean, it's just, it's one of those things, man, where I don't think any of us really saw it coming because it's like the only move that the Nets have really made so far is a trade with their crosstown rivals. Just kind of weird. Really not much to add on that. I mean, we already talked about the trade last week, so no need to rehash that.
Pretty much. For the Charlotte Hornets, the only thing they've done is they've got Josh Green from the Mavs as part of a 3-team trade, and then they traded with the Nuggets to get Reggie Jackson. Neither one of those are need a mover moves. Josh Green's a solid guy, but those moves don't move the needle at all. Any thoughts?
I mean, they maybe move the needle in terms of Charlotte because Charlotte's not a good basketball team.
They're just
they're not needle movers on a big team, but for Charlotte, they might be needle movers. They might, all Charlotte's really trying to do at this point, man, is they're trying to at least consistently win some games, right? They're trying to build a culture.
I hear you. Chicago Bulls, Patrick Williams is re-signed with the team.
Mm-hmm.
They did add Josh Giddey and Jalen. Jalen Smith has a free agent, and then Josh Giddey in a trade with Alex Caruso. I like the Giddey trade for him because Giddey needed a fresh start. If he can keep these young girls out of his mind, maybe he can do something on the court. And Jalen Smith's a good, solid rotational player. Any thoughts?
I still just think that giving up Caruso for Josh Giddey was stupid, but that's what they did.
I don't think Caruso wanted to be there anymore, and they were just trying to get the best they could.
Probably.
Personal, I haven't done any research, but just looking at the team. And then of course Cleveland. Only thing they did was they signed Donovan Mitchell to a 3-year extension. Of course, the 3rd year is a player option, and after the 2nd year, the full supermax. So that's why he structured the deal that way. But he's staying in Cleveland. Shocker to me. I don't know. I didn't think he would re-sign with him, but hey, that's what he decided to do. So continue to be one of the 4th or 5th best teams in the East, Cleveland.
Pretty much.
Stagnation is going to get you in the same place. It's not going to move you up. All right, then we got the Dallas Mavs. They added Quentin Grimes, Klay Thompson via sign trade. Quentin Grimes was a trade with the Pistons. In those trades or in their moves, they lost Josh Green, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Derrick Jones Jr. Well, in the trades and then just leaving the team. To me, you got a little bit better with 3 pieces you added versus 3 pieces that left. You got a little bit better on offense, and you got worse on defense. So, kind of balanced
Ask
out.
Milwaukee, ask Milwaukee how that worked out.
Pretty much. And then we get to Denver, man. They lost Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Reggie Jackson. So now that you lost Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Reggie Jackson, we might as well just not play this year because apparently we can't win without those 2 guys.
That's what I heard, man. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, without a backup point guard that didn't really fit our system and a guy who could have stayed if he wanted to, even if he didn't get offered the same exact dollar amount, could have stayed if he wanted to, decided to leave. That tells, hey, now we can't win. This is not from other teams. This is from Nuggets fans.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that, KCP is kind of a big loss a little bit, just from the extent that he is a guy who has been around. He's won championships. He's got that experience factor. He's got it will hit big shots for you in big moments in games, but it's not as if you don't have other guys that can do that as well. So it's not like you lost the only guy you had that could do that.
Yeah. I mean, he got his money in Orlando, not knocking him, just saying. Detroit Pistons, they signed Kate Cunningham to a 5-year extension. They added Tim Hardaway Jr. via trade, Tobias Harris on a 2-year deal, and Wendell Moore Jr. Via trade with the Wolves. Again, I know Detroit's not a good team, but nothing that they did to me is a needle moving move.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the big thing for them was getting Cunningham re-signed, just for the fact that at least it gives you some stability to know you got a guy you could build around for the next couple of years.
If he can stay healthy.
That is the question.
Golden State Warriors, they added Kyle Anderson, Buddy Hield, DeAnthony Melton, and Lindy Waters III. The first 3 guys, Kyle Anderson, Buddy Hield, and DeAnthony Melton, will make impacts. I think Buddy Hield's going to end up being a splash cousin. I don't think they can say Splash Brothers anymore. But you put him on a team with Steph where you got to really watch both of those dudes. And Buddy Hield might be a splash cousin. So it might be a good move for him. Kyle Anderson, we know what he brings to the table. They lost Chris Paul and Klay Thompson. It's definitely time for Klay Thompson to move on. They weren't going to pay him. And Chris Paul, they should have waived this dude or traded him before last season started. They was capped at that. Any thoughts, man?
No, I mean, you got to like what they're doing, right? I mean, they kind of recognize that, hey, we can't just keep running it back. We gotta infuse some talent into this roster. They could have did the comfortable thing. They could have paid Klay. They could have brought him back. They could have made whatever concession need to be made, but they was like, no, we're not gonna do it. We're gonna go get these other guys.
Yeah, you do have to respect people that will say, "No, we're not going to just do the norm." Right? Houston, not a lot of moves. Aaron Holiday, they re-signed 2-year deal. Then they added AJ Griffin, trade with the Hawks. Nothing major, nothing big, but this is a young team. They made some splashes last offseason, so not much of a surprise there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Indiana Pacers. Yeah, Indiana Pacers signed Obi Toppin and Pascal Siakam on 4-year deals. They added James Wiseman on a 2-year deal, and then they lost Jalen Smith, who we talked about earlier. I like the re-signings because this was a solid team until their star got hurt. I like the James Wiseman pickup, and I'm a guy that you take a guy like James Wiseman, you put him on a team with a couple of veterans, some guys that can really impart in him and teach this young man, because he didn't even really play college basketball. I don't think he'll be a star.
Mhm.
Never thought he would, but I think athletic-wise, size-wise, he's something that not many guys are in the league. So if he can get in a place where he can develop, and I think this guy still got a long, solid career as possibly, like a backup center, maybe a fringe starter on certain teams. And I think this would be a good place to get that. So I like those moves.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
No, I pretty much agree with that. I mean, there's not really much to add there.
And then your little brothers, the Clippers, they re-signed James Harden. They added Nicholas Batum on a 2-year deal and Mo Bamba on a 1-year deal. And Paul George and Mason Plumlee both left. So, I mean, this is an old team. This is just putting more holes on a sinking ship. At some point, you're going to have to just rebuild. James Harden probably qualified on this team, but
or more accurately, more holes in a Clipper ship.
This guy, man.
I mean, you're gonna name yourself the Clippers. I can't not take the shot. I'm just saying,
This guy, man. That's all I'm gonna say. This guy. So then we get to the Lakers. So they re-signed Max Christie on a 4-year deal. They re-signed LeBron James on a 2-year deal, and then Taurean Prince left at free agency. Obviously, they're not considering rookies or anything in here. This is just players that have experience that are moving around. I'm just gonna ask you your thoughts on the moves. You're the Lakers guy.
So the Max Christie one is interesting to me just for the fact that he really hasn't done much of anything. So I think that maybe speaks more to what they think he could become, and they just want to go ahead and maybe get ahead of it before he has a chance to really develop and they want to get paid. So it could be a smart move. We'll see. Not really too much bothered by Taurean Prince leaving. The LeBron deal to me, I don't know if it's official yet. I don't know if he's actually signed the papers, if there's still a chance he could take less money if they get the right person or whatever. But let's be honest, man. I've been telling you for 2 years, I do not think we're going to win another championship as long as LeBron is there. So it really doesn't matter to me at this point. I'm just basically just waiting for LeBron to retire so that we can rebuild this team and start competing again.
Yeah, well, none of the deals can be signed until tomorrow, actually. So anybody could change their mind, flip where they're going, or decide to do something different up until the 6th, because the 6th is when deals can officially be signed. These are all verbal.
Yeah.
Max Christie.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say, what I do want to point out real quick with the Lakers is this. For me, the bigger concern is not so much what they have done. It's what hasn't happened, right? We've seen multiple guys at this point that the Lakers have been interested in that have turned down the opportunity to come play there. And they very specifically have pointed out that the reason they do not want to go to LA is basketball reasons, right? Like Clay said, oh, I consider LA for family ties, but from a basketball standpoint, right? Buddy Hill said, hey, I got on the phone with Steve Kerr. I wanted to go somewhere where I felt like I had a chance to win. Which basically is, to me, him saying, I didn't think I had a chance to win in other places.
Yeah. Hey. What it is. Memphis Grizzlies haven't really done anything yet. Miami Heat signed Thomas and Kevin Love and Brian Alec Burks. They're just going to keep on moving. There's nothing to talk about there. The Milwaukee Bucks added Taurean Prince and Dalian Wright. Nothing to talk about there either. The Minnesota Timberwolves added Luke Garza, who's returning. Well, re-signed Luke Garza. They added PJ Dozier and Joe Ingles. I like the Joe Ingles because Joe Ingles is a shooter. You need shooters. PJ is more of like a defensive 3 and sometimes streaky shooter. But Joe Ingles is a solid shooter. So I like those small moves to kind of try to keep that core together and get a little bit better.
Right. Yeah, these aren't the needle mover players for them. So
definitely not needle movers. Definitely not. The New Orleans Pelicans added DeJounte Murray in the trade. They sent Dyson Daniels and Larry Nance Jr. to the Hawks. They lost Jonas Valanciunas to the Wizards. Whenever you lose a player to the Wizards, that stings. And then RJ Marshall left for free agency and went to the Mavs. DeJounte Murray is probably the best option they were going to get at the point guard position. Well, they did trade, and guys out except for Valanciunas, who didn't leave as part of the trade, but had left the team. I don't think he's really going to make a big mark on them. Any thoughts, man?
yeah, I mean they had to do something, right? And for what they gave up to get Murray, I really don't think that was too bad, right? I think they did okay for themselves in terms of what they gave up versus what they got.
Right. And do like a certain team that we're going to talk about. Matter of fact, I'm right now the New York Knicks. They re-signed OG Anunoby, which was big for them, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They added Mikal Bridges, Keita Bates-Diop, and Mamadou Diakate. They lost Isaiah Hartenstein, which I think will be a big move. Oh, maybe a bit of a loss. And Bogdanovich shooters. Shooter and then like their hustle guy. But nothing that I don't think they can replace. I don't even know if Mikal Bridges is really a needle mover, right? Especially what they had to give up for him. It's like he's got to be amazing for what they had to give up. This is like Villanova again. You know what I'm saying? Like the Villanova Knicks, the New York Wildcats. So, hey, I mean, any thoughts, man?
I mean, at the end of the day, man, I think when you're the Knicks, you're looking at you got guys who just can't stay healthy, right? Julius Randle couldn't stay healthy. Jalen Brunson was balling out, and then he got hurt, and then it just at that point, man, it just seemed like the whole team got hurt, right? Like literally everybody was injured. So I think this is a team that kind of looked at this past year and said, what could we have done if guys were healthy? What if we had more pieces that could actually contribute? And they went out and they made the moves they feel like they needed to make. Were these the best moves they could have made? I mean, that's debatable, but this is what was available to them. This is what they could get done, I guess. I mean, I do think that they did make themselves a little bit better overall, though.
Fair enough. OKC, we've kind of talked about, but they made a couple of moves here. They re-signed Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins, 4 and 5 year deal. They added Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein. I think those are two big pieces. Those are both veteran guys. I think it's two big pieces to add to a young team that didn't have guys that really could step up in the playoff moments. Now they'll be better next year. I think it's good. It's a good ads. Caruso started off playing with Brian, played with the Bulls for a couple of years. So this is a guy who's been to the playoffs, a little bit of a veteran at this point, and he does what he does well, and he understands what he does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, to me, these are all good moves, right? And particularly adding some of those veteran guys who can come in and kind of help, because clearly what happened in Oklahoma City last year in the playoffs was their inexperience caught them.
Yeah, so you want to get more comfortable with that. Orlando Magic, they re-signed Goga Bitadze, Gary Harris, Jonathan Isaac, Franz Wagner got the big boy extension, and then Moritz Wagner got the 2-year deal. Also, they added Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. So they spent a lot of money, but Wagner is one of their own guys as well as Isaac. So they were signing some of their own guys back. They signed 5 of them, but some of the pieces that may be important to them in the future, they signed back, as well as added, again, another team that needed veteran presence. Mm-hmm. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is a good veteran presence. They overpaid him, I feel like, but you knew that you weren't going to be the only team looking for him. So you did what you had to do.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that is obviously hoping to continue to grow from year to year, right? So you signed a lot of these guys to at least 2 or 3 year deals, and then the big, 5 year extensions for two of those guys, and then you bring in a guy like KCP. I think it makes them at least a little bit better, and you're hoping that with another year of experience with all these guys playing together, that they're able to take that next step.
Definitely, definitely. All right, Philadelphia 76ers. They give Tyrese Maxey a 5 year rookie max. Kelly Oubre Jr. returns on a 2 year deal. They had Andre Drummond as a backup center, Paul George as a second or third option, and then Eric Gordon as a veteran that's a bucket getter and a leader in the locker room. They lost pieces, but they were going to lose Buddy Hield either way. Mo Bamba didn't fit. Nicholas Batum, I mean, he is a replaceable piece. And DeAnthony Melton. These are all guys that, I mean, you would like to have a couple of hustle guys, play a little defensive hustle, but they're findable in other places. Long story short.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Philadelphia?
Yeah, I mean, Philadelphia went out and made some moves to try to get better, because Boston put a lot of pressure on some of these teams out in the East, right? So the teams like the Knicks, the Sixers, they're like, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
couldn't just run it back. Just run it back. We ain't gonna have a
Mm-hmm.
chance." So they're out there trying to make moves.
Definitely, I agree. Phoenix Suns, they re-signed Bobo, Damian Lee, and Royce O'Neal. They added Monte Morris and Mason Plumlee. Uh, None of these are needle movers, honestly.
Nope.
Bobo should have been a monster, but he doesn't care about basketball. It seems like just watching his development, it doesn't seem like he cares. The Portland Trailblazers added Denny Evija. Nothing really talk about there. Kings added Alex Lynn. Well, they re-signed Alex Lynn and Malik Monk and added Jalen McDaniels. Malik Monk's a pretty good piece. He can get hot at times. Play with y'all for a little bit too, but I don't think he's anybody that's gonna move your needle. San Antonio Spurs, they added Chris Paul. That's been lauded as a major move. Personally, I don't think it's a bad move, but I'm just not ready to laud it as an amazing move.
Yeah. To me, the most surprising thing about this is I really thought that Chris Paul was going to probably try to go get on with somebody who had a chance to go after a ring this year and try to go finally get that ring. So I was a little bit surprised that he opted to go and instead kind of mentor some of the young guys.
They come down to who wanted you. Toronto Raptors, they re-signed Scotty Barnes to the rookie max. They re-signed Emmanuel Quickly and Garrett Temple on a 1 year deal. They added Davion Mitchell and Sasha Vesnikov. I like re-signing your own guys. The additions are bench guys, so they're not guys that are going to come in and make a major impact. But you do need to have a good, strong second unit because, as we've seen from so many teams, you're one player away from being a starter in the NBA. So can't hurt.
Pretty much. Yeah. Not really much to add to that one. Shout out to FSU guy. Didn't his big extension. Congrats.
Utah Jazz, Drew Eubanks signs with the Utah Jazz. Nothing there to really talk about. Washington Wizards re-sign Rashawn Holmes. They add Malcolm Brogdon and Jonas Valanciunas. I'm going to honestly say those are two really good moves for them on a sneaky low tip. Brogdon is a guy that can play one of the two, can be a facilitator and a scorer. He may get a little bit more out of some of those guys that are left there. We'll see. Maybe a veteran presence will help. And Valanciunas, I mean, he's just a guy that plays hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not a star, but he's a big beefy man that you can put down there to battle with some of those big boys in the NBA. So pretty solid moves, in my opinion. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you're not looking at the Wizards as a team that's going to really make a whole lot of noise. Uh, so it is always, to me, good when you have some of these teams that aren't necessarily expected to compete, when they're actually making moves to try to get better, and they're not just saying, "Hey, we know we're going to suck, we'll just suck."
Right. And I know it's been in the chat for a few minutes here, but we kind of trying to get through that NBA. So BS3 Network says, "What's up, fellows? Ben, what's up, man? Appreciate you tuning in and checking us out as well." Ben runs the BS3 Network, and they have a lot of great shows on the BS3 Network. So definitely get a chance, man. Go check them out as well. Quick commercial break. Come back, and we're gonna some quick conversation on, of course, Big Ten and ranking their strength of schedule. Kind of going through the Big Four because they're not a Big Five, which is a Big Four. So let's get into it.
Hey, Eagles fan. Join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast. Every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets. Cool McCain.
You thought you wanted Gunther against Chad Gable, but you didn't. And I'm going to tell you why. Chad Gable would take everything that Gunther's done and bury it.
The Playmaker.
It was on site. AJ Styles walked out there, seen LA Knight. Oh, okay. And then LA Knight hopped out the car. Let's go.
Break down everything in TNA, AEW, and all of the WWE programming. Join these two kings, monarchs of wrestling, live every Monday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Central on the PlayCallers Sports Talk YouTube channel.
All right, good people, and we're back. So definitely going to bring a little bit into this big team, Big Ten. What's going on with the talking tonight? But before we do, shout out to American Angel, who will also hear the show on, and live on Real Wise as well. Real Wise Radio as well. And shout out to the One Wise Hefe. It is his birthday today, man. So shout out to you. Happy birthday. And yeah, let's dig into this thing, man. So, we went through the SEC. We went through the ACC. We know there's only Big Four, no more Big Five. And just another, the Pac-10 has lost at work, which is no surprise. You only got two teams. The Pac-12 is really the Pac-2. So that. But let's dig into it. So, ranking-wise, number 18, we have the Indiana Hoosiers. Tough games of Washington, Michigan, Ohio State. Easiest for the International, Western Illinois. They play UNC Charlotte, Michigan State, and Purdue. What's your thoughts, man?
With 18 teams, man, I'm not even going to start giving you my thoughts until we get to about 10.
Fair enough. All right, so number 17, strength of schedule, Ohio State Buckeyes. Toughest games, Iowa, Oregon, Penn State, Michigan. Easiest games, Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall, Michigan State, Purdue, and Indiana. That's the easy schedule for teams. Number 16, the Nebraska Corners. Toughest game, Ohio State, USC, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Easiest, they play UTEP. Colorado, Northern Iowa, Illinois, Purdue, Indiana. Just so you know, USA Today, this is going to be on the billboard for Deion Sanders, and if they win this game, he's going to tell you he got receipts. Just so you know. We want to throw that out there because why not? And number 15, the Maryland Terrapins, who I have a strong distaste for, personal reasons. Toughest games, USC, Oregon, Iowa, and Penn State. Easiest games, UConn, Michigan State, Virginia, Villanova, and Indiana. I think that pretty much goes. Illini of Illinois. Toughest games, Penn State, Michigan, and Oregon. Easiest games, Eastern Illinois, Central Michigan, Purdue, Michigan State. Rutgers, the Scarlet Knights. Toughest games. This is when you know you don't have a lot of tough games. Virginia Tech, Washington, Wisconsin, and USC. Easiest games, Howard, Akron, Illinois. So I guess they have just a bunch of like okay games, but not a lot of strong games, not a lot of really weak games. So I guess that's why they are that high. Number 12, Sydney Lions. Their toughest games are USC, Wisconsin, Ohio State, and Washington. Their easiest games are Bowling Green, Kent State, Illinois, and Purdue. Number 11, the Michigan State Spartans, who's been on everybody's easy list. Their toughest games are Ohio State, Oregon, and Michigan. Their easiest are Florida Atlantic, Boston College, Indiana, Illinois, and Purdue. I think they were the easiest game on Illinois' list too, so it's kind of ironic. All right, so now we're in the top 10. So maybe at the point where my co-host wants to give a little info. So let's do it this way so we can give you guys the maximum info. Number 10, we got the Oregon Ducks. What you got for the Oregon Ducks?
Well, you know, man, their toughest games are Ohio State, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Washington. The Michigan one is going to be interesting because, I mean, obviously the defending champions, but new coaching staff, you got certain guys that's obviously not going to be back. So we don't really know what Michigan's going to be yet, right? Their easiest games are Idaho, Michigan State, Purdue, and Illinois. So they do have a lot of pretty winnable games. I think this probably is about right for them, just kind of like in about the middle of the pack here. They got some tough games, but it's not like it's that much more difficult than what they had at over in the Pac-12, right?
Fair enough. Number 9, toughest schedule, the Washington Huskies. Thoughts on them?
Yeah, so they're tough games. You got Michigan, Iowa, USC, Penn State, and Oregon. Their easy games are Weber State, Eastern Michigan, and Indiana. So, you know, you do have 2 pretty easy out-of-conference games. You only got 1 easy in-conference game. So, you know, pretty interesting schedule.
All right, number 8, Northwestern Wildcats.
Yeah, Northwestern's got to play Washington, Wisconsin, Iowa, Ohio State, and Michigan. And their easiest games are Eastern Illinois, Indiana, Purdue, and Illinois. And, you know, I look at this and I think to myself, okay, how are we really saying like tough? Because while Wisconsin and Iowa will sometimes play well, Iowa more defensively than anything else. But, you know, do I want to say that those are necessarily tough games? Do I think those deserve to be in that list? So to me, this one could be a little high, but.
All right, number 7, we got the Minnesota Golden Gophers.
The Golden Gophers. So again, apparently USA Today is really high on Iowa because they have their toughest games listed as Iowa, Michigan, USC, Penn State, and Wisconsin. And then their easiest games are Rhode Island, Nevada, and Illinois. So definitely have some easy games on there. But again, I go back to you got some question marks. We don't really know about Michigan yet. You assume they'll be good, but we don't know for sure yet. So I guess that's why they're kind of still in the middle of the pack here a little bit.
Makes sense. Number 6, Wisconsin Badgers' 6th strongest schedule.
Yeah, this starts to sound like something that you might expect to be a little tougher. Because their tough games are Alabama, USC, Penn State, and Oregon. Ooh, excuse me. Excuse me. Easiest games are Western Michigan, South Dakota, and Purdue. So kind of interesting that they have no Michigan or Ohio State on their schedule. And we'll see what Alabama looks like this year without old St. Nick.
Number 5, Iowa Hawkeyes.
Well, I'm surprised to see Iowa such a tough schedule since they're such a tough matchup for everybody, So obviously toughest games. They've got Iowa State, which, rivalry game, Ohio State, Washington, Wisconsin. It'll be interesting to see what Washington is this year, right? Without Penix there at quarterback, see what they do with the new quarterback. But their easiest games are Illinois State, Troy, and Michigan State.
Number 4, the Purdue Boilermakers.
Yeah, so Purdue, I've actually seen some polls that have them with the toughest schedule, actually. So their tough games are Notre Dame, Wisconsin, Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State. Their easy games are Indiana State, Illinois, Michigan State, and Indiana. So, again, they avoid Michigan, but they do have Notre Dame, and they do have Oregon, and they do have Ohio State, and they have Penn State, who always plays tough. And then Wisconsin, you never know what the team's going to be.
Number 3, the Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, so Michigan, Texas, USC, Washington, Oregon, and Ohio State. So here we had to say, what is Washington going to be able to reload into? Other than that, that is definitely a pretty tough group there. But they do get Arkansas State, Illinois, Michigan State, and Indiana. So overall, I'm going to say for the new coaching staff, pretty tough schedule.
Yeah, I agree with that. Number 2, we have the UCLA Bruins, a new edition.
Yeah, welcome to the Big Ten. You're going to get LSU is an out-of-conference game. You have Oregon, Penn State, Iowa, Washington, and USC. And your easiest games are only Hawaii and Indiana. So that is pretty legit. The only thing that would make this tougher is if they actually had to play Ohio State or Michigan.
And tougher, USC Trojans, another new addition to the conference.
Yeah, did anybody tell LSU that they're in the SEC? Because they're playing a whole lot of Big Ten teams this year. So USC is going to face LSU, Michigan, Wisconsin, Penn State, Washington, and Notre Dame. And their only easy game is Utah State. So, yeah, definitely an interesting one. But they do get to avoid Ohio State, though.
I know they're so heartbroken that they have to avoid Ohio State. They stormed into offices the minute they saw them and said, you know what? We want to play Ohio State. This right here is hogwash and it's poppycock.
I am a little disappointed, though, that we didn't get the USC Oregon game, though. That is a little disappointing.
It's a little weird. to be honest. But just things happen, man. You join, it's kind of last minute anyway, because you're playing a lot of these things out years in advance. So I guess it just didn't bounce that way. Hopefully we'll get it, in the future. I'd love to see all the former Pac 12 teams, kind of play each other every year, but it doesn't always work out. So yeah, man, we're right around that hour mark. Anything else you want to add, man, before we go ahead and get up out of here for the evening?
No, I'm good, man.
All right, I'm just gonna put it very simply, man. Make sure you tell 4 people who like you and 4 that may not to come and check out your boys. Just because they may or may not like you doesn't mean they won't like us. And as always, it's never where you start, it's always where you finish. Again, shout out 502 Angel Radio and us being live radio as well. And happy birthday, Wise. We'll be back with you next week. Another amazing episode. Play Call Sports Talk Live. And we out.
Play Callers.